Hi, welcome to AleoTalks. This is Alec Davis. Now, it's just me today. We don't have CJ, but that's alright. So I figured that today would just be a day for me to talk about whatever's on my mind. One thing that I think that I wanted to talk about was, just what I wanted to get across with the podcast. Now, what I feel like this is almost therapeutic for me. I get to talk about whatever I really want, and hopefully we have some people listening to that. I get to speak my mind. I have lots of opinions on things, as I'm sure a lot of people do, and I don't really have anything that makes me qualified to give my opinions, but I feel like I do so in an entertaining way, and I hope that you'll enjoy that as much as I do. There are a lot of things going on in today's world, and I feel like somebody's got to talk about it, and somebody has to be kind of real about it. We have so many people being very negative about things, and I feel like I can bring some positivity and light to some of these subjects, and maybe talk about them in a way where you learn and I learn. You can have a good time when you're listening to me. You can listen and you can be like, hey, maybe I agree with that, or maybe you don't. Now, so far on the show, we're only on the second episode, but we've had some laughs. We've enjoyed ourselves a little bit. I think that's been a fun time for us, but at the same time, sometimes I might want to talk about something and shed light on it. Something that I may feel is important. Not necessarily anything in this episode or maybe the next, but, sometimes, things need to be talked about, and we don't need people to talk about them in a way that's so negative, or maybe we need to play devil's advocate and think about things in a different way. So I'm hoping to maybe accomplish that with this podcast. I like making people laugh. I like making people have a good time, and ultimately that is the goal of the podcast, is not only for me to have a good time, but for you to enjoy yourself and say, hey, this is funny, but at the same time, I get to have an engaging conversation, or, maybe just in your mind a conversation about this topic or or another topic, and, you just you get to think a little bit. It's a little bit of a breather. Whether you're driving down the road or just sitting at your house, not really doing anything, it's good background noise. It's engaging. It gets you to think when we talk about, various subjects. In this last episode, we talked about aliens and clapping alien cheeks. And, while that's all fun and all, it does get you to think, what if there are aliens out there in the universe? What if we find aliens, in Area 51? It's an engaging topic, and although we are kind of doing a meme while we're talking about it, it does get you to think. There are serious topics that we need to talk about, like the rainforest and the fact that it's burning down at a crazy rate because, people in Brazil have just, they've stopped caring, almost, as it seems to me. They're burning down this humongous ecosystem that's essential for life on Earth and helping to subside the climate change that's going on. So we need to talk about these things. Now, while we will do so while we're joking and laughing, it's good to have these conversations. It's healthy. So ultimately, that's what I want to do. That's one of the topics that I want to talk about in this episode, is actually the rainforest and the issues that it's going to cause because of these farmers burning down woods for more land for farming, and them cutting down the rainforest for lumber and stuff. It's a very serious issue, and I don't feel like there are people worried enough about this issue. the rainforest is burning down at a crazy rate, and it almost seems like people, at least here in the U.S. and in West Virginia, where I'm from, don't really seem to care or understand the gravity of what's going on. It's burning down. It's going to cause serious issues. We already have a lot of issues that are being caused by climate change. I know from my own experience that the weather has changed where I'm at. We don't get the same winters that we used to. Summer is different. The seasons aren't going at the same rate that they used to. We're getting summer later in the year and winter later or earlier, if you would call it. Like, we're not getting really cold here until December or January, and I know that that's an issue. The polar ice caps are melting. It's an issue. These polar bears don't have anywhere to live. These polar bears are having to live in the water. They've become subnautic. They are going to become mermaid bears, and that, while being a cool thing, is also destroying an entire species. These bears are going to have to go through the entire effort of evolving to grow tails, and they're going to have to do it very fast because the polar ice caps are melting. And them being completely white in an ocean with no ice, they're going to be extremely easy to spot and hunt. Now, we don't know if they're going to evolve to be like very fast swimmers, but I would assume not. Bears on land, I believe that they can run about 30 miles an hour, but I don't know if that would translate to swimming. We'll have to see how the evolutionary chain decides to what path it decides to take them down. And penguins as well. Penguins are, they're not going to have a place to live. And these penguins, they can't fly. If penguins could fly, they could fly up here and have a grand old time. They could hang out with the pigeons, run around, causing trouble, causing some ruckus, but they can't fly. And I'm sure that they're not good enough swimmers to really swim all that way. That's a long way. It would probably take me at least 15 minutes to swim all that way. That is a long time to be swimming. So, this is this is a real issue here, folks, and we need to do something about it. Now, I don't know exactly if my audience would be able to do anything about this, but what you can do is to help reduce your climate footprint. That's one thing that we can do to help kind of prolong the earth and prolong the inevitable. Really, it's just a band-aid for a wound that needs stitching. But to get kind of serious here again, the rainforest is burning. It's burning way too fast. We need to do something about it. You can donate money to many people that are trying to help. I know that Leonardo DiCaprio and his foundation are planning to make moves and donate a lot of money to help put out these fires, but it's not enough. We all need to find ways that we can help this situation. Now, me and my wife, Alina, we donate money every month to kind of offset our carbon footprint, but that's not enough either. There are many steps that we need to take. If you can carpool. If you can walk somewhere. You don't have to drive for 5 minutes. You can take a walk. Not only is it healthy for you, but it's better for the environment. You get to see what's going on in your community, and it's just a better time. You might be able to see a crackhead. Those are rare. Maybe not where I'm from, but they may be rare where you're from. You can interact with them. They might even let you feed them and pet them, which is not only interesting, but it's engaging and nice. Now, to kind of get off of this topic here, I'm sure that you guys don't want to hear me being all preachy and save the earth and whatnot. I wanted to talk about ghosts and whether they exist. Now, I've had many friends tell me ghost stories, tell me that they've seen ghosts. And although I have had some, I would say paranormal interactions, I would describe them. I don't know if I can definitively say if I've ever seen a ghost. Well, it would be interesting, and I would like to think that ghosts exist. I don't know if I can say that they do. You know, I feel like there would be a lot more instances where ghosts would show themselves. If I was a ghost, I would want people to know I was there. I don't know if this has come across yet, but I'm a little bit of an attention whore, and I like to be noticed. If I was a ghost, I would sure as hell like to be noticed. If I'm standing in the corner of your room, I'm not just going to stand there and stare at you. I'm going to fuck with you hard. I'm going to turn on your TV. I'm going to turn off your Xbox when you're about to get that victory royale on Fortnite. I'm going to mess with you so hard. If you guys are having sex, I'm going to tickle your butthole. I'm going to fuck with you hard. I don't really understand the whole thing behind ghosts. I don't know why they would only show themselves sometimes. Maybe it's like an energy thing. Maybe they can only conjure up enough energy to interact with you every now and then. But if you're going to do it, I feel like you need to go all out. I feel like you need to go balls to the wall. You know, don't just flicker the lights. Don't brush somebody's hair to the side. You need to fuck with these people and let them know you're there. If I was a ghost and somebody was playing with a Ouija board, you can bet your ass that when they asked what my name was, I would tell them Satan. I would scare these people shitless. And I know I'm not the only one. You know, why do we have so many pansy-ass ghosts? Now, I'm sure saying this, not only may I be offending some of you, but I am probably most likely offending whatever ghosts may be in my house, if they do exist. So I'll have to give you an update on whether or not these ghosts are coming to clap my cheeks or not. But really, I don't understand how they would exist and only show themselves to people that are open to the idea of ghosts existing. Now, you know, I have some experience, and I'll share those experiences. But it's one thing that I just don't completely understand. And there's so many people that may see a poltergeist or a ghost, and they immediately jump to, oh, that was a ghost, before exploring other options. So, you know, to kind of tell you some of my experiences that may have been paranormal, but I couldn't disprove that it wasn't something else. About a year ago, I went to a rundown prison with my wife and one of my best friends, Janie, and one of her friends. And, you know, I would say that we had an experience. We went to the lunchroom, which was a very active place for the prisoners. You know, I would suspect that was probably some of their favorite places because, you know, food is kind of a comfort thing for a lot of us. I know we have to eat for nourishment, but food plays a big part in our lives. And I would say that the food court would probably be one of my favorite places if I was in prison. But, you know, we were in there. It was completely dark. We were alone, and I know that we were alone. But we heard noises. We heard some banging. Now, it could have just been pipes creaking. It could have been many things. But it did freak me out a bit. And then we did a little experiment. Now, I wouldn't say that this is a scientific experiment by any means. But it freaked me out, to say the least. So what we did, and they'd been showed this by paranormal investigators, which is, I believe is what they call themselves. You take a flashlight and you loosen the top until it is almost on. So with the slightest touch, it will reconnect the connection and the light will come on. So then you place it down in the middle of your group, and you ask questions. And hopefully, if something sparks a reaction, the ghost will hit the flashlight, and it'll make the light turn on. So several times while we were doing that, the light would spark up, and it only seemed to do it when we would ask questions that were almost personable or relatable, to where it's like they would want to answer that question. Nothing like dumb shit like I would usually say, but serious questions. And they would interact with me more than my friends and my wife, which were all females. Also, we went into the church at the prison, and we went into there and did the same little experiment. Now, I don't believe I've talked about this before, but I'm actually an ordained minister. Now, there is a funny story behind that. Originally, I got ordained because to kind of explain, I don't believe in God. I'm kind of what you would say an agnostic, a hopeful agnostic. I don't really believe in God necessarily, so I got ordained in case I'm wrong, because I'm not one to try to say that I'm right all the time. I'll admit when I'm wrong, and I'm open to the possibility of being wrong, but I don't live my life following any religion's lifestyle. So I'm open to the possibility of, if there's a God or whatever religion may be accurate, I kind of need to be careful. So what I did was I went online and I got ordained as a Christian minister, so that, if I am wrong, I kind of have a little more leeway, and say that the rapture happens and I'm stuck here on earth. I might be able to do a few exorcisms or make some holy water so that I feel a little safer. Now, you're probably thinking, well, that's a little silly, Alec, don't you think? And I would agree. Yes, it does. But at the same time, if I'm wrong and you're wrong, I can make holy water. And that whole little deal with the exorcist, I can do that, and I can make it out alive. Can you say the same thing? And while it may seem silly, whatever was happening there, it did seem to respond more to me. Being ordained and all, I think may have had something to do with it. It may have been in our minds, and we may have just been, imagining something up because we wanted to see something there. But, whatever was happening did seem to respond more to me, which I don't know if it was me being a male or me being an ordained minister, technically. I'm not entirely sure, but that is my experience with the paranormal side of things. It's not very interesting. It's not crazy. So if you have any crazy ghost stories that you would like to share, go ahead and leave a comment down below if you're listening on YouTube. And if you're listening on Spotify, go ahead and head on over to YouTube if you think it's important enough for me to hear, and I might just share it on the next podcast, because I am open to this idea that ghosts may exist. Now, I think that our next topic is going to be, we're going to kind of go left field here, kind of just go back into the memes, as I would say. How much is too much porn? How many times a week is it normal for you to watch porn, male or female? And, I can't really say definitively. I would say a good healthy number would probably be 5 times a week, but I might be able to understand if it's more. If you're watching porn with a partner, maybe it's okay to watch it a little bit more. Are you watching it just for the story, or are you getting some kind of pleasure out of this? I would say it really depends. I would not watch porn more than maybe, I would say 3 times a week, would be about my max. But I'm not a hypersexual person. I don't feel the need to watch porn that frequently. I don't want to watch people getting it on that often. It just seems odd to me. I understand porn and the purpose that it serves. And I understand if you're interested in it, but I think that, certainly there's a limit to it, to where it becomes more of a fantasy. You're not just watching something for the enjoyment of it. You're not watching it to get off to it or whatever it may be. That becomes a fantasy at that point. And I think that it will become unhealthy. I would say 7 times a week is when it starts to become unhealthy. Just thinking off the top of my head. There's really no need. If you're in a healthy relationship and you're active in that manner, I would say that you don't need to watch it more than 3 times a week. Certainly everybody needs alone time, but really I wouldn't say that it's needed that frequently. If you are not spending that much, let's say, quality time with your significant other, maybe there's an issue there. I know that not everybody wants to be having relations that frequently, but ultimately it's healthy for your relationship. Now, you're probably wondering, Alec, why are you talking about this? Well, that's because I don't have ideas for what to talk about. And not having somebody to talk to and be beside me or to feed off of is kind of an issue. So we're really scraping the bottom of the barrel here, folks. 2 episodes in and we are almost out of ideas. This is a real issue. But to get back at the topic at hand, porn is important, I would say. It helps people to realize, this stuff is normal. People have sex, and I feel like it's kind of opened up a doorway, especially with Pornhub being so active on Twitter, interacting with people and topics and hot news. I would say that it's opened a doorway for sexuality to be more open, in society. So I think it's a good thing, but at the same time, consuming too much of this is unhealthy. Now, I've been asked before, is watching porn like cheating on your significant other? And I would say, no, I don't believe so. I believe that it's normal. It's okay. Sometimes you wanna do stuff to somebody that isn't your significant other, and that's alright. I feel like it becomes cheating when you start to hit up these webcam sites and you interact with these girls. I think interaction is where you have to cross the line. I'd say that it takes it a little too far, and that's not a good thing. I feel like once you cross that line, I feel like there's something going on there to where your needs aren't being met in your relationship. So that is certainly an issue. Now, I know what you're saying. You're saying, Alec, this episode is a little rough. And I would have to agree. I'm not an idea machine. I need somebody to feed off of. I need some energy to feed off of. So what I'd like you to do as a viewer is to simply comment what topics you would like to hear me talk about. Maybe who you'd like to hear me talk about. I have some friends, and they all have different perspectives on things. You guys have already met CJ. So maybe just ask me. Tell me what you want to hear me talk about, and I will gladly talk about it. Now, one thing I did want to talk about is the future of this podcast. Now, we're working on getting the podcast on Spotify. It should be on Spotify within the next few days. So if you are a frequent Spotify user, you can listen to me on Spotify. You can listen to me at work if you want to. If you have headphones in and you're working, you don't want anybody to bother you. You don't want to even acknowledge that you're at work. You want to be in your own little place. You want to be undisturbed, and I understand that, as I do it too. Well, now, while you're doing that, instead of listening to whatever shitty pop music you're listening to or fake emo band that you're listening to, you can listen to me and we can have conversations. So make sure to check me out on Spotify. Now, one thing that we're planning on doing is introducing video to the podcast. So we will, you'll be able to see me. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about. And, we'll be able to have videos and pictures to kind of work off of for visual aids. So that, if you're watching at home and you have the opportunity to, watch instead of just listen, you'll have the visual aids to help. And, we'll be able to check out some memes, some funny videos. I have some skits and sketches that I'm planning up, that I think will be enjoyable for everybody. So we'll update with that. Hopefully we'll have that ready within the next few weeks. Now, the upload schedule, I am hoping for it to be on Tuesdays and Fridays. That's right, folks. Twice a week. Now, this episode is coming out a day late, and that's okay. We're still in the beginning stages of planning this out and getting it working. This is not a well-oiled machine yet. We're not to where we need to be. We're greasing the cogs. We're fueling up the machine. We're getting ready. We are a bulldozer that is coming your way, and we're gonna be doing what bulldozers do. Bulldozing things. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. Now, this is going to be a relatively short episode because, like I've said, I don't exactly have all of the pieces together yet. I'm still working on it. I just want you guys to know what's going on. I want to give you a couple memes to get you through the day, or a couple days if you're a very slow listener and you're only listening to like 15 minutes a day. I want to help you out. So ultimately, this is just kind of an update podcast. This episode is really more of an update. I don't know if this would even count as episode 2. This is more of episode 1.5 here, folks. So I think we're about to end it. I just wanted to talk to you guys, to give you a couple of opinions that I have, and let you know what the future of the podcast holds. Now, I know this episode was a little rough, but folks, you better buckle in and hold tight, because we are whipping up something great over here at AleoTalks. Great things are coming. We're coming in with video. We're coming in with crazy, zany people. We're going to be having laughs, all right? This is a good time. This is family. Here, you're not just a podcast listener, but you're family. And here, family is family. That's right. Not only are you family, but you are family. Now, thanks for listening. We'll see you again on the next AleoTalks. My name is Alec Davis. Have a good night.